You need desire. You need one. We play with that passion. We play together. We play for each other. And we play to win. We are Notre Dame.
Yes, that sound means that it's time for Notre Dame football slot, and it's my great pleasure to welcome to the programme once again, Len Clark. Welcome to the show, Len.
Hi, Declan. It's the best way to start the week by talking to you and talking about an Irish victory.
Yes, and what a victory that was. I mean, if you and I had gazed in a crystal ball and I had said to you, Len, Notre Dame are going to blank the opposition and going to rack up more than 50 points, you'd have said, I don't know. I think the win is on, but 52, I don't know.
Well, they were expecting more. Some of the pundits that follow Notre Dame were expecting Notre Dame to score in the 70s. Bowling Green has had a down year. It's a first-time opponent that came into Notre Dame Stadium. But, Declan, you and I have talked before that any time a team comes into Notre Dame Stadium for the first time, it's their Super Bowl. Much like Ball State last year out of the Mid-American Conference. They came in and they played above their heads, but unfortunately Bowling Green did not provide a game, and the tone was really set early in the ball game with field position, and Notre Dame had a short field the whole afternoon, and Ian Book just picked them apart like a person on the Thanksgiving dinner picking at a turkey, just bit by bit, and he actually had 5 touchdown passes. He was relieved in the third quarter as Phil Jurkovec came in and got some necessary experience. So the Fighting Irish with 6 touchdown passes yesterday. They put up 52 points, a great afternoon. And Declan, a little bit later, we're going to talk about another special announcement that was made yesterday that has some implications for people over in Dublin. Okay, well, ahead of that, though, let's hear some of the highlights of the game. We're going to bring you a collection of those now. So this is some first half highlights.
First and 10 on the 17 from the shotgun. Ian Book drops back 2 steps, looks across the middle, fires to the end zone, touchdown! Tommy Tremble with the touchdown reception with the seam route down the right side was wide open, about 5 yards deep in the end zone, and Ian put it. Irish on the move once again, first down and 10 from the Bowling Green 21, 6:58 left in the first quarter. Book takes a snap, play action, throws across the middle to Komet. Paul Komet dives into the end zone, touchdown Notre Dame. Tommy Tremble in motion to the left. Book claps for it. Has the ball, plenty of time, throws to Chase Claypool, walks in for the touchdown. From the shotgun to the near hash. Book, play action, stands in the pocket, lifts one down the middle of the field to the end zone to Chase Claypool. Touchdown, Notre Dame. 4 seconds left. Loy has the ball. He's in trouble. He escapes, lofts the ball to the near side of the end zone, and Notre Dame picks it off. Jalen Elliott, 2 yards deep in the end zone, skied for it. His second INT of the season. That's the final play.
Now, basically everything they attempted seemed to work.
It did. It was one of those days where, Notre Dame was expected to win big, but it was a chance really to execute, to perfect, especially with USC coming in next weekend. So it was a game the coaches wanted Ian Book to build up more confidence, more experience, and to look for more receivers on the throwing end. And yesterday, they threw it to 9 different receivers. Javon McKinley caught 5 of those passes, and Chase Claypool caught 3, 2 of those for touchdowns. The one thing, Declan, that Notre Dame did not do early on in the ball game, but they ended up getting a lot of yards, was rushing the football. Tony Jones Jr. with 7 carries over 100 yards. He had 102. But more importantly, 9 different individuals ran the football, so it was a game for Notre Dame to get a lot of experience for the second and third teamers to come in. But it was a day that Notre Dame was expected to win big. They executed, no turnovers, very few penalties, and so it was really a good preparation game for their arch rival USC that comes into Notre Dame next Saturday.
How did backup quarterback Phil Jurkovec do when he came on?
Well, Phil Jurkovec actually threw his first touchdown passes of his career. He was 5 of 7, had 79 yards and 1 touchdown, and he also showed some good moves running the football. He was the second leading rusher after Tony Jones. He carried the ball 4 times and scored, or he didn't score, but he gained 42 yards. And so it was a good game for Phil Jurkovec to gain confidence And later on in the ballgame, the third-string quarterback, Len Clark, actually got in for a few series and didn't throw a pass, but he did run the football one time for 9 yards. So a great game for experience, and the biggest stat, Declan, coming out of the ballgame, no injuries.
Yeah, and you had mentioned earlier that there needed to be games in this run of fixtures for an opportunity to provide both Phil and the third choice guy with an opportunity to QB at this level.
Exactly, because let's say Ian Book gets hurt in the first half against USC. You don't want to bring in a person who doesn't have that much game experience. So now Phil Jakovic knows what it's like to be out there on the football pitch this year, in addition to Len Clark. And so you always have to have a plan B and a plan C, and that's what the coaching staff was doing, putting people in the right position to evaluate. And in the United States, we call that sudden change. If something goes awry, that you can actually have a plan in place to execute and hopefully win a ball game.
Yeah, it's like making sure the crew is ready, in the fire station, just in case the house goes on fire.
And you practice, sliding up and down that pole and pulling out those hoses so that you can put out a fire in a minimal amount of time.
So when the bells ring, you get down there as quick as possible. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of those players want that bell to ring because they want to get back out on that field. And that's the one thing that we saw yesterday is that the players had fun. And this is going to be a great week, Declan. This is Notre Dame's biggest opponent. They're calling for a green out to have everybody in the stadium wear green. But as a student at Notre Dame, I just really loved the week prior to the USC game because there's anticipation that builds up into that crescendo when they kick it off in the stadium. Saturday night, so it's going to be a night game on national television. And Notre Dame put themselves in a good position with a big win over Bowling Green. They're ranked 9th in the country right now. In just a few hours, they're going to come out with the latest poll. I don't anticipate Notre Dame going up in the poll, so I look for them to stay a solid 9th in the poll. But USC is kind of down this year. They've had some administrative troubles and a losing record, and they'll probably have a new coach going into next year. But anytime these two rivals get together, throw the record books out because it's going to be a heck of a ball game.
Yeah, it's like, as we say in this part of the world, in another code, the form book goes out the window.
That's exactly right. And it's just, I tell you, my favorite part is just waiting for that kickoff because of the pageantry and just the anticipation and just the excitement. And that's something that we haven't seen in the first couple of ball games for Notre Dame because they have played opponents for the first time like New Mexico and Bowling Green. And this will be an atmosphere much like the Georgia game down in Athens, Georgia, where a lot of people, a lot of excitement. It's going to be loud, and there's going to be a big crowd.
Do the Trojans bring a traveling fan base with them when they play this fixture?
They usually do. USC is a national school, so they have alumni all over the United States. And the other thing they do is that they bring their band, and it's always a great spectacle when you have both Notre Dame and the USC band there, and in addition to the history of a game that goes back into the 1920s. And so it's just going to be another edition of the game that they call the Glamour Game. And they play for the coveted Shillelagh Trophy, which is adorned with green emeralds as well as red garnets. And I have to say there's more green on that trophy than there is red right now.
Now, you probably don't remember this, but the USC marching band featured on a top 10 US Billboard Hot 100 song in 1979 called Tusk by Fleetwood Mac.
Oh, of course. Yeah, and they still play that song. But the USC band is much like Michigan, where they play the same song over and over. And so I've gone to bed after many games with that earworm in my head, just hearing that Pride of Troy over and over again. And don't tell anybody, Declan, but I kind of like that song because it reminds me, it looks, tastes, smells like college football.
Yes, very much so, particularly where the band come in on the record.
And exactly, and the other thing that the USC has is one of their mascots is a Trojan warrior who rides a white horse. And the great Eric Parsegian back in the 70s said, I hate that horse. And that horse's name was Trigger. After his touchdown, he would run up and down the sidelines of the L.A. Coliseum. So I've had many a bad experience at the L.A. Memorial Coliseum. I'm just glad that the game is home this year at Notre Dame Stadium in October. And it's just probably, outside of the Navy game, my favorite game of the year because of the rivalry. And it just exemplifies what college football is about in the United States.
So in Las Vegas, Notre Dame would be the favorites in this game.
They're an 11-point favorite right now, and yesterday Notre Dame was a 45-point favorite. And I really don't like the betting scheme, but Notre Dame covered yesterday, especially with that big of a point spread. And unfortunately, Bowling Green just couldn't get anything going offensively to make it a game. But you and I are broadcasters. We like every game to go down to the final seconds because of the excitement, as long as our team wins.
More drama.
But it was just one of those games. It was just one of those games where you just wanted that confidence that it's like a Muhammad Ali beating up on his sparring partner, and getting him ready for the title fight. And that's what that game felt like yesterday. Bowling Green was a good sparring partner.
And so the guys are in good shape. They're playing well. They're starting to get the passing game going. Things are starting to click into gear just the right time.
Exactly. And the one thing that Notre Dame fans need right now is for teams in the top 10, like an Ohio State, an Alabama, a Georgia, a Clemson, to actually lose a ball game, because that will strengthen Notre Dame's chances of getting into the college football playoff. Notre Dame has an outside chance with one loss to get into the college football playoff, but there's still a lot of football left to play. We're only 5 games into a 12-game season, so we're almost at that halfway point. But what we've seen from Notre Dame this year, the offense needs to start stepping it up a notch, especially in the running game, but they've been decimated by injuries. The passing game is starting to come around, but really the strength of this Notre Dame 2019 team is the defense, and defense wins ball games.
We're going to bring a few more highlights from the game here. We're going to start off with McKinley's touchdown catch, Phil Jurkovic's TD pass, and then Flemister's touchdown, and then we'll have a bit more conversation on that.
Book calls for the ball, takes it, drops back, looks to his right, now to the middle, once again has time from the pocket, throws to the end zone, touchdown Notre Dame! Javon McKinley, just across the pylon on the near side, 25-yard score, and the Irish now lead 34-0. Ball still on the right side of the field, Jurkovic keeps it himself, rolls to the right to Davis, touchdown Notre Dame! A quick play-action fake, a quick rollout to the right. Avery Davis snuck out of the backfield, caught it inside the 5 and ran to the far side. 6 points Notre Dame, and the lead is 44-0.
These offensive linemen want this to be a rushing touchdown more than anybody in this stadium.
Waiting to get the okay. There we go. The Irish go down with the lineman. Jurkovic ready for the ball. Hands off to Flemister, right up the middle, easily into the end zone for the Irish touchdown. Notre Dame 51, Bowling Green nothing.
And of course they converted the extra point there and got it as a 52-0 outcome. Is there a possibility that Notre Dame could go 11-1 and not make a national bowl?
There is that possibility. It just depends on how the rest of the teams in the country fare, and there will be a few teams finishing undefeated. But Notre Dame is not part of a conference. And that actually is a good thing, and it's a bad thing. The bad thing is that this happened a couple of years ago when Alabama won the national championship. They did not win the SEC championship game. They got beat, but they still went on, got into the college football playoff, and won the college football national championship. So there is an outside chance, but right now the coaching staff and the players are just taking it one game at a time, because if you lose to USC, that conversation goes out the window.
Right. So it's kind of win or bust on Saturday.
It is, and let's go back to that Sebo Flemister touchdown. Actually, Ian Book was in that series before, and he was in there for one reason, is that the all-time record for the number of touchdown passes thrown by a quarterback is 6. And so he went in there and threw an incomplete pass, and then the coaching staff pulled him, tried to save him from an injury, and that's why Notre Dame ran the ball and got that touchdown. So Notre Dame was trying to help Ian Book get into the record books, but I think they're more happy with the W as opposed to getting a loss against Bowling Green.
There might be another opportunity for Ian to get into those record books on another game, possibly even this season.
I think most of the players would like to be in the record book for winning a national championship.
Yeah. At the end of the day, that adds up to a much bigger hill of beans.
Exactly. It's the Notre Dame hasn't won a national championship since 1988, and every year there's high anticipation, but one game at a time, And next man in is the mantra for this team. And fortunately, they've been at home for past 3 games. And after the USC game, they'll take a break, a bye week, and then they go up to Michigan on the road to play in a hostile environment with another longtime rival, the Wolverines of Michigan.
Are they based in Ann Arbor, are they?
They are, and right now Jim Harbaugh and his team are having an up-and-down year. They nearly lost to Army, and then they lost big to Michigan. And so this is a game where many people say if Harbaugh loses to Notre Dame, he's going to be on the unemployment line looking for a job. And so, like I said, Declan, we need to get by USC first, one game at a time, one snap at a time, because you never can tell. Anything can change with one snap of the football.
Yeah, but the venue in Ann Arbor is one of the largest in collegiate football. I think they hosted a hockey game once, and there was over 100,000 people at it.
Oh yeah, I think right now it depends, but they keep adding on over 104,000. They did play an NHL game there on New Year's Day a couple of years ago with the Red Wings, and Notre Dame also played an outdoor game. That's becoming big with these football venues that are only used 6 or 7 times throughout the year. So you need to kind of look at ways that you can multi-purpose them, and that seems to be a great thing, and now a new tradition in terms of national hockey is to play at a college stadium.
Yeah, the Blackhawks, I think, played in Notre Dame, didn't they?
Yeah, they played last year on New Year's Day, and of course we were in Dallas at the Cotton Bowl for the BCS championship semifinal game. But Declan, like I say, things are really starting to come in place, and I keep giving you hints. I shared some information with you yesterday, and there's going to be a historic first next year in Dublin.
Okay, share it with our listeners.
Well, I was hoping that you would do that because it's going to be big, not only from a college football standpoint, but from a media standpoint. ESPN College Game Day, which has been doing this since the early 1990s, where they go to a different college environment and have a long pregame and day-long program talking about college football. For the first time, they are leaving the confines of the United States.
Live from Dublin.
Yeah. They're heading to Dublin, and they're going to be there for the Notre Dame Navy game, and this is the first time that ESPN has ventured outside of the United States for a college football game as far as publicity. And when that announcement came out yesterday, I made sure to go and remind Notre Dame Sports Information that there's already a presence in Dublin. That's with Dublin City FM.
Yes, indeed, and we're delighted to bring this segment to our listeners every week on the programme. A lot to look forward to, and that big game with USC, and things are shaping up well. Now, I've an interesting series of teams that are starved of major titles from different codes. Here in Ireland, in our national soccer competition, we have a team in Dublin called Shamrock Rovers who have won the National Cup competition more times than anybody else. However, their last title was in 1987. Notre Dame haven't won a national title since 1988, and my beloved Habs haven't won the Stanley Cup since 1993. Wouldn't it be great if all 3 famines came to an end in the next 6 months?
Well, I tell you what, I know what it's like being a longtime Chicago Cubs baseball fan over 100 years, and a couple of years ago they won the World Series, so I know what it's like when they say that something freezes over. And so, yeah, I would like to see that. I think it's just great for the fans and the sport in general. But there's also another Irish team that has been cursed, if you will, and we can't neglect Mayo and their GAA football team as well.
Yeah, they just need to learn to shoot straight. That's their big problem.
You know, and I remind my friends down in Mayo about that all the time.
Yeah, if they could kick the ball accurately over the bar from distance, they'd be fine.
I'll pass that along to their coaches.
Yeah, reduce the number of wides by 50% and you'll win in All Ireland. There you are.
You know what? Stats don't lie, but what's the old line is that stats indict, video convicts. So if you see that ball being kicked and it's not going tried and true, then you know that the stats are backing that up.
Yeah, but, and it seems to be a particular issue for them when they hit the big stage rather than anywhere else.
Exactly, but you know, these teams that haven't won in a long time, I think it's just great for the sports, and you never know what can happen. What was it, the team in the Premier League that was traditionally down won it a couple of years ago? I'm trying to think of the Premier League team.
Oh, Leicester City.
Leicester City.
They'd never won it before. Yeah.
So I think if you put $1 down on Las Vegas that you talked about, and you put it on one of those teams, that who knows, you might be a happy person at the end of the season.
Yeah, so that's an interesting one. Notre Dame, 31 years, Shamrock Rovers, 32 years, and the Montreal Canadiens, 26 going on 27.
Maybe this is the year. But, Declan, the other thing that we need to mention is that we've got some good news for the program as well. We're proud to announce that Indiana Dunes Tourism is also going to be supporting us in the next coming weeks on the show, and we're really excited about that. Indiana Dunes is the newest national park in the United States, and so how we're positioning that is when individuals come to Notre Dame, we want them to extend their stay and head back toward the Chicago area and enjoy the natural resources of the newest national park in the United States. And I have to say, there were a few fans from Ireland at the game yesterday that listened to On the Ball.
Fantastic. Well, I'm glad they were there and they enjoyed the game. And this is great news for the slot, and great news that we'll be able to work in association with the Indiana Dunes National Park. And I know from my own time visiting a couple of national parks in the US that they're always worth seeing.
Exactly. This is what we're trying to do, is to encourage people, especially from Ireland, to come out and experience the Notre Dame football game, but also spend a couple of days in the area, because just an hour outside of South Bend, you've got some of the most unique natural resources in the world right there on the Great Lakes where I live, right on the tip of Lake Michigan in Portage, Indiana. And so that whole area between Gary and South Bend is really designated as a national park area. And we'd really like people from Dublin and around the Emerald Isle to come out and experience a Notre Dame football game and a little bit of culture outside of the Chicago area.
Well, Len, we've run out of time. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. Fantastic that the guys got a 52-zip victory. I know some people out there wanted it to be bigger, but you got to save some stuff in the tank for the visit of the Trojans.
That's right. If you go back to Formula One racing or IndyCar racing, you always want to have a few extra drops of gas in there in case you need to hit the boost button.
Exactly. Len Clark, thank you so much for joining us.
Go Irish.